Okay, gentlemen, trunks are good on both sides. Gentlemen, we went over the rules of the dressing room. I want to caution you to keep this fight clean at all times, protect yourself at all times, and what I say you must obey. Good luck to both of you. Touch them up.
Tevin Farmer is a special defensive fighter, Jim. He has special defensive instincts. Considering he took up boxing as late as he did at the age of 19, I'm not sure I've ever seen anything quite like it. The question is, having taken it up so late, can he integrate the offense and the defense and become something more than just a special defensive fighter, be a special fighter, period?
It was after a knockout loss to Steven Pedraza in his 12th fight that, by Farmer's account, he said, I'm going to get serious about this. This is my career. I'm going to be a professional fighter. I'm going to do the best I possibly can at it. And at that point, he began hiring multiple trainers. He has different guys with whom he does pad work, looking to achieve different kinds of learning experiences in the gym. He's very creative in the way he thinks about going about his seasoning and learning process. And Andre, I know you've seen him before. Max just described him as a special defensive fighter. As a special defensive fighter yourself, do you agree?
I think Farmer is a special defensive fighter, and I think he's a really, really good offensive fighter. And for a guy who doesn't have much amateur background and has learned on the job as a professional, the way he carries himself, the way he talks, and even the way he fights, it's almost as if he's a seasoned veteran already.
He also has some star appeal. He handles himself well in interviews. Even the fact that he's obviously cross-eyed, right? But even that is distinctive. It's a distinctive physical characteristic. The losses early in his career are an interesting story. And his defense reminds me of an Argentine great named Nicolino Loche. You can YouTube him, kids. But he has these kind of otherworldly radar kind of defense where it seems like he knows where the punches are going to be before the guy who throws them even knows where they're going to be.
And a lot of what we're talking about right now, it's not taught, it's caught. It's things that you learn along the way and you instinctively figure it out and you start to implement it.
Well, there was a time in the economic development of the sport, and we'll talk about this later, when it wasn't a sin for a fighter to have 4 losses in his first 12 fights. That was part of the education process. You didn't put him in a locked box and put him away and say, oh no, they can't possibly be any good. It really began with television coverage in the 80s when all 3 commercial networks had anthology shows and were programming fights on Saturday afternoons, that it became a sort of imperative that you had an unbeaten record at some point, which would get you on to one of those shows. But something may have been lost in the devotion to that particular mantra, and Farmer may turn some heads and cause people to change the way they think if he goes forward from here to a great career. I mentioned earlier the shooting incident that took place at his niece's birthday party earlier this year. This is his first fight in the ring since he was shot all the way through his right hand. And he told us a little bit about what he thinks of coming back.
Got caught with a good left hand at the end of that round.
I was at a party, and well, it was my niece's party. My sister's baby father, he wasn't supposed to be there. My brother told me he had to leave, and you know how that go. So we go out to the side to try to resolve it, and that's when I seen guns, and that's when I jumped right for it. I ended up getting shot in the hand. I knew I was shot. I looked at it like, oh, I'm shot, all right. But I was just worried about my family. I didn't really care. It's only pain. Pain temporary. That's how I take it. And my hand was like, it was stuck like this. And I couldn't close them. And then I kept going therapy, and then it just got like this. It started getting closer. And then one day I was able to ball my fists up. I've been through so much, and I always bounce back. So it was like, I'm gonna get back. I'm not really worried about it. I mean, everything that I've been through, to look back on it, it prepared me for today. No regrets, absolutely not. I'm ready for the big stage.
So he wants to just brush it off and move on forward. And, you know, North Philadelphia, the neighborhood from which he comes, is the kind of neighborhood which gives a man a right to say, hey, I've seen worse than that.
Yeah, Farmer's been through a lot in his life. He's overcome a lot. And that's one thing that you can admire about him is even in the toughest moments of his life, like you just mentioned, he seems to brush it off, and he already sees a better day as he approached this fight. Ogawa's a tough fighter. He's big, he's strong, and I think we saw that in the first round. But you can tell that Farmer is maintaining his composure, and he's sticking to his game plan.
Ogawa has something in common with the great Roy Jones, which was that after his first loss, he was determined to avenge it. And when he got a chance, he knocked the other guy out in the first round, duplicating what Jones, of course, accomplished against Montel Griffin back in the day. And Max, I love Farmer's jab. It's so quick.
Tevin Farmer told us yesterday he's not talking about resume, not what he's accomplished or proven. He just believes that skill for skill, he's a top 5 to 7 fighter regardless of weight class. In other words, pound for pound, he's among the top half dozen or so fighters in the world. So far against a certain level of opposition since those early losses, I understand what he means. What we're going to find out now is if that's in fact true as the level of opposition rises. Here in the first round, he was caught with a good stiff left hand toward the end of the round. We know he's a tough guy. Just the fact that he had those early losses and now he finds himself on HBO means he's a tough guy. He wouldn't have been able to turn his career around if he didn't have some character.
And by the way, we know that Kenichi Ogawa is quality within the Japanese fighting realm because he's trained by Sendai Tanaka, who is maybe the best known and most esteemed of current Japanese trainers. You saw him earlier this year with Yoshihiro Kamagai against Miguel Cotto. You saw him training Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez after Gonzalez lost his longtime trainer Arnulfo Albando to surprising death earlier or toward the end of last year. Tanaka is vastly respected globally as a trainer, and he wouldn't be training Ogawa if he didn't think Ogawa had the chance to be a top fighter, just as Farmer does.
You can see the strength of Ogawa early with the punches that he's landing and even the punches that he's missing on Tevin Farmer. But this is what a championship fight should look like. It should be nip and tuck and tight until somebody decides to separate themselves.
Good left hand by Farmer, and he slips away as Ogawa tries to answer back with the right hand. Meanwhile, the word from the hospital is that Stephen Smith has torn cartilage and will require extensive plastic surgery and a long recovery, but ultimately should be okay.
It's good news.
You get him pretty good. You don't hear anything. You gotta go. You gotta go. Wait a little bit, feint him, and then throw your punches. Okay, he's putting Vaseline on. Stop for a second. Okay, go this way, feint him this way.
Here's Kenji Ogawa's mother and wife seated at ringside. The mother on the left is holding a picture of Ogawa's father, partially because one thing we haven't mentioned is that this fight is for a vacant world title belt. And, of course, it was the dream of Ogawa's father that his son, the fighter, could win a world title. He will have one if he can beat Farmer here tonight. So mom and wife are devoted as they watch at ringside.
Tevin Farmer's confidence level, Andre, in his boxing style, the fact that he picked up boxing at the age of 19, it's remarkable. Like, he fights with the kind of muscle memory, reflexes, and confidence of a kid who's been fighting since he was 5 years old.
Yeah, I agree. I think Farmer's confidence is his greatest asset. It's not his southpaw stance, it's not the speed, it's not even the defense. It's his ability to believe that he's not going to lose. A man with his mind made up is a difficult man to beat on any night.
Normally you associate that with an unbeaten fighter. Maybe because he changed the way he was going about things, he changed his life with regard to boxing. He believes that he's seen what the difference is between winning and losing, and that he's never going to lose again.
He's been to the bottom already.
If you have 4 losses and only 5 knockouts and 24 wins, and you picked up boxing late, generally you don't have that level of confidence, but he does. And And he's also really slick, really slick.
Our motion detectors show us statistically that Farmer is fighting the classic counterpuncher's fight, giving up ground, letting Ogawa press forward, moving forward only 7% of the time, while Ogawa moves forward 49% of the time, yet Farmer is content to counter and is winning the rounds, or so it would appear to us, while doing that.
See, when I talk about his offense, Andre, he does have some offense, and he's very good defensively, but he hasn't fully integrated the two, where he makes his opponent pay off the miss. He's either on offense or he's on defense. And so a fighter, by being busy, can keep his hands at home, can keep Farmer from countering.
That's possible, but right now in this specific fight, it's the third round. He's fighting a big, strong guy, and it's not time to open up. And you'll see Farmer open up little by little as this fight progresses.
That's been his style.
And as he starts to get more openings from Ogawa.
That's been his style against big, strong guys. He is slick early, goes on the defensive, picks his shots, and then as the fight wears on, as he's had success as his career's worn on, he starts to take over offensively.
But that has to be the case because right now his opponent is strong. His opponent is taking punches very well. But hit that opponent with the same punch midway through and late in the fight and see if he can still take that punch.
Farmer showboated a little bit. Ogawa caught him with a left hook.
Farmer's been trying to land that sneaky overhand left all night, and he hasn't been able to do it so far.
Next Saturday night, another marquee matchup from the red-hot middleweight division as Billy Joe Saunders defends his slice of the 160-pound championship against Canadian knockout artist David Lemieux. That's the only belt that Gennady Golovkin does not hold in the middleweight division. After next Saturday night, it will belong either still to Saunders or to David Lemieux. And beginning December 26th, for 4 consecutive nights, it's Boxing's Best 2017, featuring names like Triple G, Canelo, Ward, Kovalev, Joshua, Klitschko, and more. We'll look back at the best and most memorable fights from a jam-packed year in the ring.
Rotating to your right off the jab. Give me a quick step to your left and put that center. You have it. Don't hesitate. But when you're ready, okay? Right. I don't want to put you in the wrong spot at the wrong time. Beautiful work. Right? That jab is the key.
It's our first look at Kenichi Ogawa and Tevin Farmer as they fight for a vacant title belt. Our unofficial ringside scorer, of course, is Harold Ludeman. Harold, how do you have it through 3?
Thank you, Jim. I got a 29-28, 2 rounds to 1, Tevin Farmer. You know, Jim, Ogawa doesn't throw enough punches. That's the problem. The guy hits a lot harder. He's a lot bigger. But, he moves in, and Tevin Farmer outboxes him. Tevin Farmer lands that right jab, lands the straight left. He lands more shots. Not that he's landing terribly hard. If Ogawa would really punch, he'd probably be winning 3-0. But he isn't. Farmer's outboxing him. 2 rounds to 1, Tevin Farmer.
Ogawa was billed as a super aggressive guy, but Andre, if you watch video of his fights, he's not overly aggressive usually. He's kind of basic 1-2 right-handed fighter, jab right hand, and he comes in and out. He's not one of these pressure fighters who's just going to be breathing down your neck all night.
Yeah, Ogawa doesn't cut the ring off, and like you said, he's not extremely aggressive. He just throws hard, and he's always looking for the knockout.
See, in and out. See, the footwork is in and out with him. Looking to set up a 1-2. There's the jab.
There's a sneaky left that Farmer's been trying to land all night, and he's yet to be able to do it.
There's the 1-2.
CompuBox numbers so far in the fight, neither guy's landing more than 27%. Those are low numbers, so it's more of a defensive contest than it is an offensive fight. That plays to Farmer's favor, and he's landed a total of 37 punches by CompuBox count so far, to only 21 for Ogawa.
Farmer's getting clipped a little more cleanly than he normally does, and this is what happens as the level of opponent gets better.
You're exactly right.
Stop.
The thing about Ogawa is he doesn't have a plan B. He's strong, and he wants to land the big right hand. That's his A, B, and C plan. Tevin Farmer, if Farmer is able to implement his game plan and start to pull all his tools out of the toolbox, it may start to become a problem for Ogawa down the stretch. And that's an if right now.
Here's the news from New York. Guillermo Rigondeaux joins the list of Vasily Lomachenko fighters to decide on their stool not to continue. After round 6, Rigondeaux has had enough of the confusing puzzle that is Lomachenko, and Lomachenko has another win.
Look, Rigondeaux was forced to move way up to take the fight, and he's old and he's slowed down. But Lomachenko is just a different talent than anyone in boxing. The only comparable talent is Terence Crawford.
And of course, Lomachenko fights in this weight class, the 130-pound weight class for this moment. Although, Max, it appears expectations are now that he might move up to 135 as soon as the next fight,
leaving 130 pounds wide open
for the people whom we're watching here tonight.
Move it up. Move it up slowly. Okay. On the inside. Now let's start punish him in the body. Okay?
Go forward?
Yep. Let's go forward. Okay? Enough from the outside. Now we gotta go from the inside. Now we gotta be the aggressor. All right, champ?
Who's my back?
Really smart.
Okay.
When we going inside being aggressive, every time y'all back up, drop back straight left. That's going to close the distance and work.
Right. Stay in this angle.
Farmer standing up between rounds, doesn't bother to take a stool. And you heard Chino Rivas whisper to him, now it's time for you to be the aggressor. What's the thought process, Andre?
It's time. Ogawa's been not necessarily the aggressor, but he's kind of having his way. You know, it's a close, tight fight, but I think Team Farmer wants him to be a little bit more offensive, like Max mentioned earlier, and they want him to start implementing the game plan. The fight is too tight if he wants to win a clear victory. He has to step it up and do something different.
Talking about Lomachenko, Jim.
Yes.
Andre, you had to fight a long time to get recognition as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. And that's partly because you were such a well-rounded fighter. Nothing jumped off. Like, you were fast, but not the fastest. You could fight in a variety of styles. It required the challenge of other top fighters to show all the things you could do. Lomachenko seems to have that. We don't know yet fully. But he also has that jump out off the screen at you, oh my God, level of kind of physical talent. He's now made Nicholas Walters quit, who was undefeated at the time. He's now made Rigondeaux quit. He easily beat Junior. I always want to say Eddie Hobson Jr. because he was a fast fighter. Gary Russell Jr.
Gary Russell Jr.
Gary Russell Jr. is another special talent, and Lomachenko beat him easily. Probably won at least 10 rounds. He's been sensational, knocking out other belt holders who were not as special as the guys I just mentioned. But the guy in our main event tonight, Orlando Salido, beat Lomachenko. Came in over the weight, hit him low 100 times. It was Lomachenko's second pro fight. And still, Lomachenko almost knocked him out in the 12th round.
And turned down $720,000, which is a lot of money for Salido. That was offered to him for a rematch with Lomachenko.
You would be hard-pressed to find anyone who thinks Salido would be competitive with Lomachenko in a rematch.
Probably not even Salido.
Right. The point is, now that if he is going to leave the division is now wide open.
Meanwhile, Tevin Farmer, whom you're looking at right here, was very explicit yesterday in saying to us, I've sparred with Lomachenko. I've been in the ring a lot with Lomachenko. If there's anyone in the world who can solve that puzzle, I'm the guy. So he's trying to put the focus on himself as the one who could unlock the puzzle of Vasily Lomachenko.
And that may be the case down the road, but right now, he's got to deal with Ogawa.
Kenichi Ogawa.
There's
round 5 of his schedule 12.
There's a lot to like in Farmer, especially if you don't consider him a finished product.
Oh, great left hand off a brilliant defensive move. That's the first moment where you get to say, oh, I see the rising superstar in this guy, and he's taking over. Chino Rivas told him between rounds, it's time for you to become the aggressor, and we've seen it in this round as he has begun not just making Ogawa miss, but making him pay after he misses.
That's the left hand Farmer's been trying to land all night. In the 5th round, is starting to find a home.
That was a great round for Tevin Farmer. Almost as though somebody told him, okay, the fight in New York is over. Now the spotlight is yours. And there's Orlando Salido, accustomed to the spotlight in fights. of the most violent nature and expected to be in one of the real thrillers tonight against Miguel Mickey Roman. There's Roman. Juarez in the dressing room. Had an incredible barn burner fight at the beginning of this year against Takashi Miura. Ultimately succumbed to Miura's extraordinary 130-pound punching power, and then got a blood and guts knockout victory in his next fight, but put himself in position for this appearance tonight at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. Referee Kenny Bayless is looking for something in the center of the ring. Looks as though he may have lost his contacts, but here we go. Farmer cut Ogawa over the right eye in that last round. Now there's sab over Ogawa's right eye, but Farmer has built a beachhead with his power punching in the last round that he can use to move forward toward victory in this fight.
What you're seeing in the last round is what Andre was referring to earlier about when Farmer starts to turn on the offense. He gets his guy under control defensively, pot-shotting, and then as the fight wears on, his offense comes to the fore increasingly.
But he's a defensive specialist. Like we said, he's very defensively responsible, so he's not going to let those shots go unless he feels like he's out of harm's way, and that's just the way that's just his makeup.
We talk about the defense. Here's the statistical indicator of that. Coming into this fight, in his last 3 fights, Kenichi Ogawa was averaging 14 landed punches out of 52 thrown in every round. Tonight, he's averaging 6 landed punches out of 29 thrown against the much more elusive target than he's used to, Tevin Farmer.
Ogawa cut over the right eye and increasingly being hit by Farmer's power punches.
Farmer beginning to show the mean streak. He's got a little bit of the Terrence Crawford in him.
Farmer's very mean, and this is when in a tight championship fight, the 6th round on, this is what separates the men from the boys. Everybody's had their filling out process, and now it's time to go to work for both fighters, and in this case, Farmer's the one that's going to work.
You were very mean against Sergey Kovalev in the second fight, Andre. Sometimes it's what's necessary, right?
Down the stretch is what it's all about. Good straight left from Farmer.
And as much as it is one guy imposing himself down the stretch, oftentimes it's also an indication of what was really happening in the beginning parts of the fight, where it's hard to tell what the story of the fight is, but one guy is sticking to a game plan and it's effective and it's wearing down the other guy. So the second half of the fight often reveals the truth of the first half.
And that's what you and I talked about earlier, was about Farmer's game plan unfolding in layers. You don't try to get it all in the first 2 rounds, the first 4 rounds. You're fighting a big, strong guy. It takes time for the punishment. It takes time for the game plan to set in. Now you're starting to see in round 6 the game plan of Farmer unfold right before our eyes.
Solid left-hand body shot there by Farmer. He's become much more of an intimidating offensive presence in the last couple of rounds. Now Kenichi Ogawa tries to mount a rally, and Farmer essentially put up the peekaboo and blocked most of those shots with his gloves and his elbows.
And Ogawa's not landing any punches. In Farmer, the type of fighter he is, he's looking for an opening.
Yeah, the only punch Ogawa landed is in exchanges. He's able to hit Farmer with his stiff left jab.
Oh, another hard left hand inside by Tevin Farmer.
But none of those punches on the gloves were getting through.
Okay, breathe. Okay, breathe some more. Breathe. Are you tired? You're not tired at all? My legs are a little tired.
Little work. Okay. Understand that? Okay. Deep breath. That's a good round. Stay active. He cannot fight backwards.
Okay.
You understand that?
All right.
Now let's switch the left. From the center, bring it up to the top. Okay, don't stay just one location. Bottom only. No, bottom and top.
Okay.
You understand that? All in angles, my champ. Okay?
Now, there are some members of the Farmer family at ringside. There are 13 brothers and sisters in the fold. And they're all here to root for Tevin tonight. Ogawa woke up in the 5th, landed a fight-high 15 punches, throwing a fight-high 46. But Farmer outdid him, landing 17 out of 50 and landing, by my lights at least, the harder shots. Harold, how do you have it through 6?
You know, Jim, I don't know about the harder shots, but let me tell you something. Hand speed wins fights. Tevin Farmer is just outboxing Ogawa. Without question. I got it 5 rounds to 1, 59-55, Tevin Farmer. And it's because of his hand speed. He moves in, he whacks him with left hands, he whacks him with right jabs. I mean, his hand speed is incredible. Ogawa just can't get off because he's always got a right jab in his face. 5-1, Tevin Farmer.
Leave it to Harold. We could sit here and talk for 6-7 rounds about a fight and seemingly cover every angle. And then he'll say something that's obviously true and we haven't touched on yet. Farmer's, you know, maybe the number one attribute as a top fighter is hand speed. If you can just, if you got better hand speed, that will carry the day oftentimes. And he's got quick hands.
Stop.
It's not just the hand speed, but it's also knowing where to be.
Well, it's not just the hand speed, but certainly that makes a big difference.
And timing. Can't discount that.
I mean, timing is the only thing that can really offset the speed.
In Ogawa, he's throwing the right hand in the same position round after round after round. You can't get away with that with the Tevin Farmer. Tevin has timed the right hand, and he's countering, he's leading, and he's really slowly starting to bust up Ogawa.
I love the way Farmer varies the angles on his left hand. I'll throw it up and under sometimes. I'll throw it totally over the top sometimes. I'll bring it roundhouse around the outside sometimes. And this is a mouthpiece replacement for Kenichi Ogawa. By the way, they've done a pretty good job on the cut over Ogawa's right eye. And a right hand by Ogawa bothered Farmer. And the second right hand bothered Farmer too. The change of mouthpiece produces some of the best moments of the fight for Kenichi Ogawa.
Good right hand by Ogawa too. I mean, this is where the only time Farmer gets touched, Andre, is in exchanges. When he opens up the offense, and that's what I mean. Because he doesn't use his defense to set up offensive position, he's either on defense or offense. When he goes on offense, he's vulnerable because he's not defending.
Farmer threw a left-hand body shot that might have been low, but it was on the opposite side toward us, away from Kenny Bayless, where Bayless didn't have any chance to see the impact. Oh, what a left hand by Tevin Farmer.
When Farmer is on defense, Ogawa can't touch him. But when he's punching, Ogawa lands.
But that's part of the game. It's going to happen.
Well, you're never more at risk than when you extend your arms to try to hit the other guy.
Yeah, and the real hallmark of a good defensive fighter to me is not whether you can hit him. It's whether you can hit him with a combination. And we have not seen Farmer get hit with more than one shot at a time.
You're exactly right.
This Wednesday, don't miss an all-new episode of The Fight Game featuring Bernard Hopkins looking back on the career of Miguel Cotto. We revisit the featherweight classic between Prince Nassim Ahmed and Kevin Kelly, which took place 20 years ago this month. What a night in Madison Square Garden that was. December 27th, it's a special year-end edition of The Fight Game, complete with year-end awards and a one-of-a-kind look back at the year in boxing. Among those superlatives, knockout of the year, I'll give you a clue on some of the promos you've seen here earlier. If you were watching closely, you saw two of the candidates for knockout of the year.
Okay, go. When he starts running, go after him. Don't worry about his punches. Once you start attacking him, he starts.
Okay, he's off.
Keep him up, baby.
Ogawa sits down between rounds. Tevin Farmer stands up. No stool. Harold Letterman's unofficial scorecard speaks for itself at the bottom of the screen. Fight is scheduled for 12 rounds with a vacant world title belt at stake.
2 rounds ago, Ogawa told his trainer, that his legs were a little tired. That's not something you want to hear your fighter say in a prize fight in between rounds.
Hard left hand by Farmer. And another one.
Now the question is, can Farmer, who seemed to be really taking over in the last round, but then was hit with some pretty good shots, can he sustain this level of dominance? You can see when he starts to feel himself, it's like he's playing with Ogawa. Can he keep it that kind of fight now, or is he not yet at the point in his career where he can keep it that way? Will he start to have some rocky moments because he's not able to consistently do what he wants?
You had a great conversation with Tevin Farmer yesterday in our fighting meeting, Max, when you were talking about Pernell Whitaker and how Whitaker did not knock many opponents out, but he could hurt them when he wanted to. And Farmer had a big smile on his face and said something to the effect of, well, it's just as effective because you take less risk, but you get the same effect. It's an important element for defensive fighters that they know how to back the opponent off when it matters.
Well, Pernell is like the ultimate example of that kind of fighter, and he's the best one I've ever seen in terms of that style. So Rigondeaux, who lost to Lomachenko tonight, had a lot of the stuff that Pernell had, but wasn't busy with the jab. Tevin Farmer has some of the stuff Pernell had, but Pernell would break you from the bottom up. He could move inside and beat your body and completely dominate you and keep the fight right there as a dominant performance. It's an unfair level of comparison. You know, it's like comparing every center field prospect to Mickey Mantle or Willie Mays. But Farmer's got a lot of stuff that he does really well. And considering how late he started, it's truly remarkable.
Yeah, he's definitely ahead of the curve, no question. And I think even more than focusing on whether, Farmer is knocking someone out or not, he's controlling the fight, and that's what he does. He starts to take over fights, and before you know it, he's in complete control. And right now, he's in control.
But within the past 30 seconds, Kenichi Ogawa has found a new weapon as he landed 2 and then make it 3 left hooks to the body. That's a punch that he can land against the southpaw, and there's another one right there. I haven't seen many of them from Ogawa earlier in the fight, but that's a new tactic on which he could build a fire if he's able to keep going back to it. Now, Farmer will probably find an antidote.
That bolo stuff that he was just doing works for Farmer. When he starts feeling it, he fights better.
Listen. You want to separate yourself from the elites, right?
Yes.
One thing we could never do, elite fighters never give a round up.
Okay.
Especially when you let a fucking fighter build confidence off that.
Okay.
Doesn't make a difference with dominating a fight. That's some bullshit there. You understand that?
Yeah.
Elite fighters never give a fucking round up.
Right.
You go up there and you fucking dominate like an elite fighter.
Right.
If you want to call yourself an elite fighter, we got to separate ourselves from the average fucking fighter. We don't do shit like that. You understand that?
Yep.
Don't do that shit again.
It was a nice flick jab from Tevin Farmer and lands a nice overhand left to the head of Kenichi Ogawa. And Ogawa landed a little right hand to the head of Farmer.
Forwards, Max. I love Chino Rivas.
He is really, that is exactly, he knows, look, Chino Rivas shows up usually with the B-side. As many trainers who show up on HBO at first do. And now he has a real talent, and I think he recognizes a talent that's capable of being an elite fighter. And that was exactly what Tevin Farmer needed to hear, exactly when he needed to hear it. That was not grandstanding by a trainer. That was telling his guy what he needed to hear. Exactly what I was talking about, in fact, in the last several rounds. Can he keep the fight as a dominant performance, or will he let the other guy back in? And what Chino Rivas saw is the other guy's getting back in, not because of stuff he's doing, but because of stuff you're allowing him to do.
And this is what these kind of fights are all about. This is where Tevin Farmer, if he's going to be a championship caliber fighter, he has to take these moments and graduate right now.
And by the way, if it's not because Farmer's allowing him to do it, if it's because of what the other guy's doing, then Chino Rivas is putting it to him. Look, you say you want to be elite. Elite fighters win every round.
Yeah, and it's time to back that talk up.
Step back.
It's that simple. It's time to back it up.
It was just a great instructional moment. It's what great trainers do. Now, it's way too early for us to tell whether Chino Rivas is going to become a great trainer.
Step back.
But he was properly authoritative with the fighter at exactly the right moment.
That's so many trainers make the mistake of overburdening the fighter with too many details in between us. First, throw the jab, then step around to the left, and it's 17 different things. You need to hear one clear message. If they want him to start throwing the jab, and then once they see that, Then you say, now put a right hand behind it. Clear message that the fighter can follow. And in this case, it was a larger point. The message was, don't play games. Continue to dominate this fight if you want to be elite. It's a kind of a turning point in your career here.
The great Emmanuel Stewart would wait until the last 10 seconds before the fighter was going into the ring and give one technical point. I want to see you do this in this round. And it made a difference in a lot of big fights.
A moment of truth that the trainer identified that might not be obvious to every trainer.
Kenichi Ogawa is fighting with heart. Keeps trying to change the momentum. Won that last round, no question.
Good round so far from Ogawa. Nice straight left to the body from Tevin Farmer. Championship rounds coming up, 10, 11, and 12.
With a title belt at stake. And with the main event still to follow, Orlando Salido, one of the greatest veterans in the sport in terms of his experience, in terms of his application to war fights. He's been in some of the most exciting fights of the last several years. And his opponent tonight, Mickey Roman, fights in a lower visibility profile than Orlando Salido. Hasn't been seen on American television networks as often, but has had many fights in his career, fighting in Juarez and sometimes across the border in Mexico. He will be in his 70th fight tonight against Orlando Salido. Meanwhile, there's traffic on the strip outside on a beautiful, crystal clear night in Las Vegas. In round 9, Tevin Farmer threw a fight low 28 punches, but he limited Ogawa to only 8 landed punches out of 35 thrown, while landing 10 of his own 28. And Kenny Bayless tells Tevin Farmer not to tackle Kenichi Ogawa and lift him up.
Ogawa's trying to send a message to Farmer at the beginning of every round by rushing across the ring and throwing a big right hand, even though he's yet to land that big right hand at the start of the round.
Well, let's see if Kenichi Ogawa is getting closer on Harold Letterman's unofficial scorecard. Harold, how do you have it scored?
Okay, Jim, I got it 7-2, 88-83 Tevin Farmer. I think that Tevin Farmer is just outboxing him, Jim, constantly. He's got quicker hands. He lands that right jab all the time. He lands the straight left hand. And he doesn't get hit by Ogawa, you know? I mean, what else can you do? His hand speed is tremendous. His foot speed is pretty good, too. 8 rounds, let's see. 8 rounds. 7-2, Tevin Farmer.
Good count, Harold. All right. Kenichi Ogawa tonight, by CompuBox count, has landed 73 out of 316 punches, meaning that he's landing about 8 punches per round. Coming into the fight, in his last several fights, he was landing 16 or 18 punches per round. So Farmer has essentially cut Ogawa's offensive output in half with his defensive skills and the pace at which he fights.
And by the way, sometimes, Andre, I notice if I or others are critical, good right hand by Ogawa,
followed by a left from Farmer.
Yep, of a fighter, you will sometimes bristle at that and point out, look, it's not so easy. The other guy's throwing punches too, and essentially you guys are holding him to a standard of perfection. I think there's a point there. Even Pernell Whitaker, when he was coming up, he was robbed in his first title shot against Jose Luis Ramirez. But that Pernell Whitaker was more of a slap-and-run guy and still hadn't developed into the complete fighter he'd be when he fought Greg Haugen in his next fight. So even the greatest ever have a learning curve. There are moments where they're becoming a complete fighter, and this may be one of those moments for Tevin Farmer. He's not a dominant world champion yet, but he's a guy who's in a learning fight. That he's still, not out of the woods, but he's winning handily, it seems.
Yeah, he is in a learning fight, but this is the fight that he has to have. He's not a blue chip prospect with, a big following or a big backing. Like, he needs everything he can get. He has to earn everything he gets, and this is the fight that he has to win tonight. So he's got to find a way to close this thing out for the remainder of this round and the following 2 rounds.
And here he's showing a part of his game he doesn't often show, which is walking the other guy down.
And this is really where I believe he needs to be if he's going to close this show, is mid-range and in close.
he's going to close this out the way he needs to. This is something Whitaker did brilliantly. This is something that Whitaker did several times in his career to show you that he could be the dominant offensive fighter, too.
More. 2 more rounds.
That was a one-sided round with Farmer landing 18 to only 7 for Ogawa. December 12th, tune into the year-end special of Real Sports as Brian Gumbel and the show's correspondents recount some of their most memorable moments of 2017.
When we walking down, all we got to do is pick any side.
Listen, okay. Don't get careless, okay? You got hit with that right because you got careless. Yeah. Okay, we got to make sure that we have the right distance. Okay,
Yes, sir.
When you drop your hands, stay focused. That body shot was killing him. When you give it to me in the liver style, bring it up in the hook style. Okay, they switch it over instead of over, turn it in the hook style in the inside. You understand that? Yeah. Beautiful work.
Okay, go from the left. Give him a hard left. And then put it together after there. And your right, straight right is good too.
Once again, Kenichi Ogawa bounces across the ring, showing energy and determination. And once again, Tevin Farmer answers by firing away to the middle of the belly with his left hand.
It's not exactly the same, Andre, but I'm reminded of your fight against Edison Miranda, when you'd never really fought a big puncher like that as a pro who you decided you needed to get inside and outwork and push back. And even though it wasn't one of your cleanest, most dominant performances, it showed a dimension of your game and character that you hadn't yet revealed as a professional. And in certain ways, Farmer's last round was similar to that. There are differences too, of course, but I'm going to move inside on a big, strong guy. I'm going to push him back. I'm going to work him, even though that involves some risk.
Yeah, the fight with Miranda was all about intangibles. It was all mental. You know, I had to make up my mind early on before, as soon as the fight was signed, that no matter what he hits me with, I'm not going anywhere. And that's probably a fight where I took the most punishment, but I had to walk through fire to get what I needed to get. And it's the same with Farmer tonight. He's got a big, strong guy in front of him. We believe he may be up, but there's no guarantees. He's got to close it out. He may have to walk through fire to close it out the way he needs to ensure victory.
And later in your career, you wouldn't have had to fight Miranda that way. When you were a more experienced fighter, you would have been able to outbox him and win every round and not do that. But going through that experience made you, not only revealed what you were capable of doing, but probably prepared you to make you a more well-rounded fighter when you reached the very top. And rounds like the previous one should help Tevin Farmer.
Absolutely.
Neither fighter has ever been in the 11th round of a fight before. So here they are in their first championship bout together in the 11th round.
I'm seeing a little fatigue from Farmer in the last round or two, even when he was doing that good work. He's a little looser, just a touch sloppier, and looks a little fatigued to me right now.
Yeah, no question. I mean, and then you add in the pressure of a championship fight, his first championship fight. It comes with the territory, but you have to find a way if you're going to be a champion.
You see fatigue in Kenichi Ogawa?
Yep, they both look tired to me.
Stop.
As I mentioned in the previous round, inside in mid-range is where Farmer needs to be. He's out of harm's way. Ogawa's not a devastating body puncher, even though he's landed a few good body shots, and he doesn't know how to defend himself inside. That's where Farmer needs to stay for the remainder of this fight. Not on the outside. Tackle by Farmer right there.
Yep, just by lowering the shoulder and letting Ogawa run into it, Farmer scores a Philadelphia Eagles tackle.
It's the last round. It's the last 3 rounds. Give everything you got.
Last and final round. Push close.
Okay.
Breathe. You all right?
Hey, short, my son.
Last and final round.
Thank you. We go. Everything nice and tight. Our movement. I don't want you just walking. Okay. Bro, I don't want you walking just like like a straight up fighter. Everything in angles. Everything in fucking angles. You understand that?
Yep.
Last round, champ. Let's go.
Called him champ, and with a purpose. CompuBox numbers as they come to the 12th. Farmer has landed 139 punches. Ogawa has landed 87. Farmer has thrown 475. Ogawa has thrown 387. So the numbers clearly favor Tevin Farmer as he tries to close in on a title belt here in the last round of his meeting against Kenichi Ogawa in Las Vegas.
Rivas gave him very good instructions again, because it was one thing 2 rounds ago, Andre, when he was moving inside with a purpose and under control. Last round, he got sloppy moving in, put his head down, just kind of walked in, and Rivas sees the danger there against a good right-handed puncher and tells him, you come in on angles, you don't just get sloppy. That was the right instruction again.
It was the right instruction, and it was due to the fatigue, as you mentioned earlier, of Tevin Farmer.
It's not clear whether Farmer's having his best night here. I have a hunch we'll see him fight better. But Chino Rivas is having a great night as a trainer as he tries to carry his fighter forward toward the first title of his career.
#12th round of a tight championship fight is where you earn your name, your reputation, and you show if you're worthy to become a world champion.
And Farmer, this is what I would describe as a promising performance.
Well, from a television standpoint, we're early on in the story. But this is something that could develop into a big story in American boxing. If a kid who started out with 4 losses and a draw in his first 12 fights can come back from being shot in the hand this year, win a world title, and go forward toward the identity he seeks as one of the very best in the sport, that's really something.
He's also torn a bicep in this year as well.
Right.
This has been a rough year, and what better way to cap it off than to win a world title tonight?
You know, he also, he's primarily a defensive fighter, but he's fun to watch. There are some fighters who run and hold, and they're not fun to watch. There are others who are spectacular defensively and have people rewinding the DVR. Oh my God, did you see that kind of moves? And Farmer's one of those guys.
Yeah, Farmer's definitely about the action. He's not afraid to mix it up. He's just going to mix it up on his terms. That's what makes him who he is.
In boxing especially, because it's an event-driven sport where people are paying to see it.
And his first time out of Japan, fighting in the United States for the first time. Kenichi Ogawa has put up spirited opposition, worked hard all night long, got better as the fight went on. Yet still, by our lights, and based on the numbers we're looking at from CompuBox, it appears that Tevin Farmer is on his way to victory.
And though Ogawa hasn't shown many wrinkles in his game, as you mentioned, he's put up a spirited effort tonight. Both guys.
Good right hand from Ogawa there. Farmer also has taken the shots well tonight.
He really has.
Well, if Ogawa can punch, and his record suggests he can, then Farmer has a chin too. To go with all the other stuff that we talked about during the fight.
I was saying, Jim, if in a sport like boxing where part of your ability is actually your marketability, you know, you are judged that way too. Are you interesting to watch? The question is, particularly as a boxer who doesn't score knockouts, are you giving the fans something to watch? The answer with Farmer is yes, he is. He's giving you something to watch.
Harold Letterman, give us your final scorecard and then tell us the official judges who will be scoring the fight.
Okay, Jim, I got a 117, 111, 9 rounds to 3, Tevin Farmer. I just thought Tevin Farmer outboxed him for the better part of the fight. I gave Ogawa 3 rounds. I gave him the 11th, as you see. I gave him the 8th, as you see. And I gave him the 2nd round. But I tell you, I thought it was all Tevin Farmer. He boxed beautifully. The judges, okay. Bert Clemens is one of the judges. Jimmy's been judging for 30 years. He comes from Las Vegas. He judged Floyd Mayweather and Maidana. Tim Cheatham, he's, the judge that's on the rise in Nevada. He's been judging about 10 years. He judged recently Juan Carlos Estrada, over Carlos Quadras on HBO. It was a very, very close fight. He had it the right way. And Max DeLuca from Villa Park, California. Jimmy's judged more rounds, I think, than any judge in the entire world. He judged Triple G against Danny Jacobs. We've seen him a zillion times. So 3 good judges, 3 experienced guys.
Harold, I think you're the person who has judged more rounds than any other judge in the whole world.
Well,
all right.
thank you, Jim.
Regardless of your respect for Max DeLuca. So now they're congregating in the middle of the ring, and we'll see how all this is going to turn out. And Ray Flores stands by now with the scores.
Ladies and gentlemen, having gone 12 championship rounds, we go to the scorecards. Here are your score totals. Judges at ringside, Bert Clements and Tim Cheatham have the contest the same, 116 to 1. As we go ahead and look at the scorecards, Tim Cheatham has the bout 116-112 for Farmer. Bert Clements scores the bout 116-112 for Ogawa. And Judge Max DeLuca scores the contest 115-113 for your winner by split decision and the new IBF Super Featherweight Champion, Kenichi Ogawa.
Well, guys, as I mentioned earlier, when Pernell Whitaker fought for his first world title
Against Jose Luis Ramirez,
he seemed to outbox him and win around 9 rounds to 3. But he wasn't the finished Pernell